Hello, Lady of Purpose. Welcome to this episode of Her Purpose and Power podcast. And my name is Victoria Ogbujah, and I am your host. Now, this is actually the first episode of Her Power and Purpose podcast. Now, before it became Her Power and Purpose podcast, it already had, I think, about 3 names. Charged On podcast, the Clarity podcast, the Victoria Ogbujah podcast, and then now we have HPP podcast, which is Her Purpose and Power. And that actually brings me to today's episode, right? Today's episode, changing, growing, and all of that. Before I go in, I just want to really welcome you to Her Power and Purpose podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about branding with purpose, branding with mindfulness, okay? And I am targeting, purpose-driven women in the entrepreneurship, in the career, in any professional field at all, who want to build purposeful and mindful brands, personal brands, who want to build with purpose and power, both in your personal and in your professional life. This is the podcast for you. Okay. All right. So, who exactly is Victoria Ogbujah? Just in case you're coming in here for the very first time, Victoria Ogbujah is a personal brand coach, a mindset coach for purpose-driven women in any professional field. Okay. I am also a Bible teacher. Yes, I am a child of God. I'm a Christian with my full chest. I am a mother, a wife. I'm an entrepreneur, a podcaster, a writer, an author, a global speaker, and all of that. You can get more about me when you go to my social media pages, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and all of that. I talk branding, I talk mindset, I talk purpose, and I talk women, female empowerment. I talk growth, I talk positive mindsets. These are areas you find me. When it comes to inspiring and motivating women to be better versions of themselves, well, you'll catch me right there. I also talk business and entrepreneurship, but I really, currently right now, I'm really focusing on, purposeful branding, growth mindset for women in any professional field. Okay, so now let's come down to today's episode. So I'm going to start by telling a quick story. So before now, I can't even count how many times I have, changed, or rather, how am I going to put it? How many times I have moved from one thing to another, right? I can't count how many times I've rebranded. Ever since I started working on my personal brand like years ago, I can't remember how many times I have rebranded. I can't remember how many times I have done brand refresh, changed my colors. I can't remember how many times I've moved from one niche to another, from social media to personal branding to motivational speaking to, I can't remember how many times I've changed from one business to another, from one niche to another. It's been a constant thing. At first, I realized that I was doing it for the wrong reasons, right? At first, it was all for the wrong reasons, right? But eventually, I also realized that even within all of that, there was also something positive, okay, now before I even go into that, each time I changed, or each time I did a rebrand or brand refresh, or each time I moved from one niche to another, I always feel this burden, this heavy pressure, on my chest, like this heavy pressure there, and I hear this voice, this condemning voice in my head telling me, oh, you're such a loser. Oh, Victoria, you are such a confused woman. Oh, Victoria, you are such a pain in the ass. Oh, Victoria, you are so unfocused. You are so impatient. You are so you have a problem, you have a mental problem, you have a psychological problem. Like, I keep hearing this every time I moved on to something, I would feel so guilty, so sad. I'll feel this pressure to outdo myself, to prove myself, to, like, it was just not good. It was just not good. You get, it was just not good. So sometimes I find myself, trying to stick to a place that I knew I had outgrown. I find myself trying to, hold on to that place because I just didn't want to start feeling or hearing that voice again, telling me just how unfocused and confused I am, just because I want to move into something new, or, into a new place. Check out what I'm saying. So a lot of times I find myself stuck, deliberately, sticking to a particular thing. Not because I want to, but because I just don't want to be in that place where I start hearing that voice. And it's not just the voice in my head. I do get, some comments from people, people that I consider, people who know me, when I announce that, oh, okay, this is who I am now, or this is, they just, you just get this, this kind of, yeah, she has changed again, that kind of stuff. So I didn't want that. Sometimes I find myself stuck in a place that I no longer value, a place that I no longer feel comfortable, or a place that I have outgrown. But I remain there because I'm just too scared, to face, people's opinions, or I just want to hear that condemning voice. Okay. Yeah, in as much as there were some negative reasons for which I was changing. Most of, some of those occasions where I changed, or I moved into something, or, I changed pattern or whatever it is, in some of those occasions I did it out of, some negative reasons, which I'm going to be sharing later. But most of the time I realized that it wasn't negative. It wasn't for negative reasons. It was for a positive reason, that I was moving to something new, to something better. But because of the fear of condemnation, because of the fear of shaming, I don't move. I get stuck. And then when I remain there, I become frustrated. I become this woman I don't recognize, a woman who is constantly seeking validation from others, stuck with imposter syndrome. I become very inconsistent. I no longer find joy in the things that I would normally do. I no longer find joy because I'm stuck somewhere that I don't want to be stuck in, but I'm just scared of negative feedback. So in essence, I was ashamed of growing, and that's just it. And when I'm in that place, I'm no longer able to fulfill purpose. I'm no longer able to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm no longer able to offer what I'm supposed to offer. I'm no longer able to think straight. I'm no longer able to show up confidently and boldly. I'm no longer able to do that because I am stuck in a place that I'm not supposed to be in. But for fear of negative feedback, for fear of that condemning voice in my head, that just comes in when I do that, for fear of what would people say, or how would I, for fear, and sometimes also from a place of pride, like I'm too proud to admit that, okay, maybe I made a mistake here and I shouldn't be doing this, so I should just move on to something else. Or I'm too proud because, I don't want, I have encouraged a lot of people to, find their space and stay there and not jump from one thing to another. So I don't want them to see me and say, oh, but, you're moving, you're changing, that kind of thing. So I'm just scared of, negative feedback. I don't want to hear it. So I get stuck there. And then because of that, it's just like, it seems as if my power has been taken away from me. My purpose has come to a standstill and I'm just not moving. Practically everything around me at that point feels the heat because Vicky is not herself. Vicky is not happy. Okay. So I was ashamed of growing. I was ashamed of growth. Now, you see, if you are doing things, okay, so let me talk about the negative reasons for, change. If you're the type of, if you are moving on to something else, or you are moving from one niche to another, or rebranding, or, rebranding yourself, rebuilding yourself, starting afresh, something, or if you're dropping something just to move to another thing, whether in your personal life or in your professional life, right? If you're doing it based on comparison, like for example, you're comparing yourself to others, you feel, okay, this person, has gotten to this place and you're not there, so you want to switch your strategies to this person's strategy when you don't even know the person's story, you don't even know the person's journey. You are so busy comparing yourself with others. You don't value your growth, your progress, your process. You don't care about time and process. You just want to be where others are, and then because of that, you switch to what they are doing. You switch to their strategies. You switch to their mindset when you don't even know them, because you come online, you see them, share some things, and you're like, wow, I want to be like this person, and then you suddenly drop everything that you are just so that you can, enter into the shoes of that person, out of negative, comparison, comparing yourself with others. Now that is a very wrong reason to force change. Change is supposed to come naturally. It's not supposed to be forced. Okay, imposter syndrome can also make you do that as well, where you don't believe you deserve the good things. You don't believe you're skilled enough. You don't believe you're knowledgeable enough. You don't believe you're good enough. So when some certain things start coming your way, you're like, I am not, you're just so scared to admit that, okay, you're good at this stuff and you deserve what's coming to you. And because of that imposter syndrome, you're not able to show up. You procrastinate a lot. You become inconsistent. And then you're just, you become like a chameleon. You're just changing from colors to colors, trying to adapt to every environment that you find yourself. When you're supposed to be the change maker, instead the environment is changing you to become who you're not supposed to be. That's what imposter syndrome can do. And then, another negative reason for you to go and force a change is impatience. When you're not patient, you're not ready to allow due process and time to take its place. You're not patient in your growth. You're not patient to learn. You're not patient to upskill. You're not patient to grow into the person that you want to be. You're not patient enough. Impatience can drive you to force change. Confusion as well, not knowing who you really are, not knowing who you stand for, not knowing what you are meant to do or called to do. Now, nobody has it figured out, to be very honest, but come on, at every stage in your life, you should know what you're doing at this point. You get what I'm saying? Even if you don't have it all figured out, but get your hands on something, right? But when you are confused about who you are, about your identity, when you're confused about your purpose, you're confused about, it can make you to make unnecessary changes or force unnecessary changes. Do you get what I'm saying? Another thing that can cause you, another negative reason that can cause a change, or that you can force a change on, is shiny object syndrome, right? When you are when one thing comes up, you look at it, you're just jumping from one trend to another, something new comes up and you're like, oh, that one is for me, and you move in. And while you're still trying to get settled in that place, and that new stuff comes and you're like, oh, you throw this one out and you move. That's what's called shiny object syndrome, right? You're just moving from one shiny object to another because it's shiny. The exterior is so, it's all glamour, and then, you just go in, and then you're not even done, you've not even digested that, something else just comes in. You just find yourself, just jumping from one shiny idea, shiny strategy, shiny color, shiny, profile to another. Do you get what I'm saying? All of these things are negative reasons for change, okay? If you clearly do a self-reflection and you realize that these are the reasons behind why you keep moving, or you're making a change that you're not supposed to make, you're making a change, and if you really are honest with yourself and you figure out that these are the negative reasons, or the reason why you're making that change is a negative one, then you really don't want to make that change. You want to wait, because change is not really supposed to be forced, right? It's supposed to be a natural thing. It's supposed to come from a place of willingness, yield, and surrender. It's supposed to be a natural thing. Change is constant. It will definitely happen. But when you force it, or when it happens based on negative reasons, then you know that is not a normal change. That's an abnormal one, and it's going to come back and bite you. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay. But the most positive reason for change, which is what I eventually came to realize later on, is growth. The truth of the matter is that we grow every day. Who I was 5 years ago is not who I am now. Who I was 2 years ago is not who I am now. Who I was even 5 days ago is not who I am now. Who I was yesterday, trust me, I have grown in knowledge and in understanding just between yesterday and today. I have grown in knowledge and understanding. I'm pretty sure that if I use a microscope to look at my skin, really, if I compare my skin from yesterday and today, I realize that maybe I've grown some little wrinkles here and there. Because, that's just it. You grow every day. Both in knowledge. You grow mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. We grow every day. Same way you grow in your professional field, in your career, you grow as well. And the truth of the matter, when it comes to building a purposeful and mindful brand as a purpose-driven woman, your growth is supposed to show, it's supposed to reflect in the way you show up, both offline and online. It's supposed to reflect in the way you speak. It's supposed to reflect in the way you write. It's supposed to reflect in the way you share contents online. It's supposed to reflect in the way you act, in the way you think, right? Now, you cannot grow and then you are not supposed to hold your growth back. You're not supposed to hide your growth, just because you're scared, of leaving, the place where you're so comfortable, you've been so comfortable in that place. And but that it is time for you to move on. It's time for you to step into the next place. But you are refusing to grow. You're refusing to step into that next level. You're refusing to take that next step because of either fear, of the unknown, or fear of negative feedback, or you're just so comfortable in that. You're now so used to this comfort zone, this lower level. You really, really don't want to go up there because you're not really ready for the hard work or all the baggages that come with it. So you just force yourself to remain stuck. Meanwhile, you've actually grown. It's time for you to move to the next level. Do you know what I'm saying? So when you are supposed to allow your growth is supposed to reflect. Now, as somebody who is showing up online, digitally, building your brand, right? Showing yourself out there, putting out your purpose out there, impacting lives. Your audience is supposed to see growth. They're supposed to see growth because you are a human being and you're living here, right? Your growth is something that must happen. So they're supposed to see growth, right? So you cannot, the same person you were 5 years ago, you cannot remain that, like, in terms of, do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that you should suddenly, how am I going to put it now? Become an entirely different person. But the truth of the matter is that at some stage in life or at some point in life, we become entirely different people. It doesn't change our core values. Our core values remain, but there are some things that change. Do you get what I'm saying? So you should grow, and it should reflect in your brand. It should reflect in how you show up out there for yourself and for others, right? You shouldn't be ashamed of growing. You shouldn't be ashamed to say, okay, hey guys, so I just changed, career. So I used to be this, but right now I'm now this, or I have transitioned into this. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. It's growth. It's growth. Or you shouldn't be ashamed to say, you know what, guys, all this while I have been doing this. I just realized now that I'm not happy in this area anymore. Or my passion for this is dead and I'm moving on to something else that brings me, more joy and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Growth is a must and change is constant. Okay? The most important thing is that you acknowledge that you're growing. You acknowledge that you have left a certain place. A certain level is now beneath you, and you need to move higher. Okay, and it's okay for that. In fact, that is supposed to reflect in your brand, especially as one who is being intentional about showing up on the digital space. So it should reflect on your brand online, and it should also reflect on your person offline as well. I'm not just talking about, building a digital brand. I'm talking about building even an all-round brand, both offline and online. When you go out there and meet people, let your growth reflect. Let it reflect. Don't be scared. Okay, I'm a Christian. I'm a Jesus baby, right? Before now, like years ago, I wasn't born again, and I did a lot of things, I had a crazy life, you get. Now that I'm born again, there was a time when I was ashamed, to tell the world that I'm now a Jesus girl, you get, because a lot of people who knew me back then, who knew my crazy life, I was so scared of what would they say? They would just laugh at me, they would mock me and all of that. But man, at some point I was like, you know what? I ain't bothered no more. Whatever it is they're going to let them say, I'm going to go out there and open my full chest and say, hey y'all, Jesus is here. I'm Jesus baby. Do you get what I'm saying? So I had to reflect that, because I cannot call myself a Jesus baby and then still be behaving, like I used to. Do you get what I'm saying? I mean, the old life is gone and now the new life is here. So I need to reflect that. So everything about me changed. Even the way I showed up online changed. The way I talk, everything changed about me, because I'm now a new person. I have grown into, I have potted into a higher level. Do you get what I'm saying? Because Jesus is the higher level. He is the highest, in fact, the highest. I have potted into the highest realm ever. And I needed that to be shown. I needed everybody to see that, because it was impacting in everything I said, did, how I showed up and all of that. Even in the colors I chose for my brand, being a Jesus baby also impacted that, because I mean, we don't want colors that, at the end of the day does not truly reflect who we are, because as a Jesus baby I have to be authentic and I have to be transparent. You get what I'm saying? So, I had to, everything just had to change. So don't hold back. Don't deliberately stunt your growth because you're scared of negative feedback, what people say, or because you have become so used to your current level and you're scared of moving up to the next one because you're scared of new responsibilities, new obligations, duties, stuff like that. Because with change comes more responsibility. Do you get what I'm saying? Change comes with responsibility, growth comes with more responsibility, and all of that. But you're growing because you are now more equipped to handle more things. That is the whole idea. Okay. One way that the change you made is not a positive change is when you get into that place and you realize that you're not even equipped for that place. You're not by no means equipped, and you're not even happy there. You're not okay there. You're not comfortable there, but you're just there because you just want to belong to a certain clique or something like that. That's how you know that this is not for me. This change was not natural. This change, this was forced. This was based, or this was done on a negative premise. Do you get what I'm saying? So, woman of purpose, do not be ashamed of growing. Do not be ashamed of making sure that your growth reflects in how you show up, both offline and online. And as a woman who is building a purposeful and a mindful brand, you want to make sure that you are actually growing, because as you grow, trust me, your audience grows as well. Do not make the mistake of deliberately stunting your own growth. Do not make the mistake of trying to force yourself to remain in a place that you have outgrown, because then you won't truly be purposeful. Right? You won't truly be purposeful, right? So I really hope this helps you. For a woman out there, if you have been scared of acknowledging your growth, if you've been scared of taking some certain actions, if you've been scared of change, and you know that it is time for this change. You actually know that it is for good reason, that you need to make this change, but you've been scared and you've been holding it back. Well, this is your sign that you go for it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, right? What is the worst that can actually happen? Like, think about all the possible worst scenarios. Like, what is it that can happen? Good. Acknowledge it, and then move in, because you just have to. If you are determined to make impact, then you should be ready to grow and you should be ready for change. This is important. Okay, all right, I think that's it. Thank you so much for tuning into this very first episode of the Her Purpose and Power podcast. Thank you so much, and I really look forward to your feedback. I actually just went on to start doing this recording. I just didn't want to overthink it. I didn't want to overdo it. I just wanted to share as it comes out of my heart. As you can see, there's no you can see here, no much editing, no plenty technicalities, whatever. I'm just recording straight on my phone, using my sound recorder. I'm not even using a mic, and I'm in my office. I closed up all the windows and doors so that, I reduce the amount of noise coming in. My neighbors' generators are on, and, it's just a lot of noise. And I'm also using this opportunity because my son is sleeping, my toddler, he's sleeping. And so as you can see, I just wanted to just do it because I ought to do it, and I don't have to wait till everything is perfect, and this is part of the changes too. This is part of my growth. I have come to realize that I don't have to wait for everything to be perfect. I don't have to wait to have it all before I start doing something or before I start showing up. I went on a long break before now because I needed to retreat and make some, and reconnect back with God, because I was really having some serious issues. And now that I'm back, by His grace, I'm ready to unleash all that He has, asked me to unleash, as much as He wants me to. And I'm just going to go ahead and do it, whether I have it all figured out or not, and trusting Him, God, Jesus Christ, right? Because a lot of people say God, but you don't know what God they're talking about. So I'm talking about Jesus Christ. So I'm just letting Him lead. Hopefully this episode is going to reach the right ears. Yeah. So I look forward to your feedback. And the next episode of this podcast should be dropping in the next 2 weeks, because it's going to be a bi-weekly podcast. So it should be dropping in the next 2 weeks. Yeah. So be on the watch out for that. Meanwhile, listen, like, comment, share. Please. Your feedback is very important. Okay. It's going to really encourage me. Okay. All right. Don't forget to follow me up on all social media platforms. So I'm mostly active on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. Mostly Instagram and LinkedIn. So just find me at Victoria Ogbujah. That's me right there. Okay. And then anywhere you go to, my profile has my link. So you can click the link and subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to my newsletter, the Her Purpose and Power newsletter. Also, you can follow me up on other social media platforms as well. And if you need help with building a purposeful and mindful brand as a female professional in any field, or if you're struggling with negative mindset and you need help to get unstuck from wherever